African-European relations is extremely important for both sides are important elements in the foreign policy of the other. On one hand, we are major trading and economic partners of each other. The diversity of the political, peace and security issues that are of common interest to both sides is growing, not actually decreasing. And at this particular moment, to be in Morocco after rejoining the African Union, I think it was a great opportunity to have a serious discussion about the drivers that are likely to shape the future of Africa, but also the drivers that are likely to shape the future of Europe, and how we can achieve synergies and an alignment in the objectives of both sides on economic issues, but also on political and peace and security issues. This is two parts. Geostrategic landscape in Africa is a very complex one. As I described in my presentation to the conference today, Africa faces many threats, challenges and risks to peace and security. On one hand is the protracted conflicts that are taking place in the continent. For example, 8 out of the 16 UN peacekeeping missions are in Africa. The 6 countries that are on the peace-building agenda of the UN are all African. And that tells you a lot about the impact of conflict in Africa. Second issue are the transnational threats that are facing Africa today, which are boundless. They do not respect borders, they do not respect frontiers. I'm talking about issues of human trafficking, illegal migration, terrorism, all that does not stop at borders and affect entire regions and sub-regions, wreak havoc on these regions, and negatively and severely affect the livelihoods of people in our communities. And then is the convergence between conflict and transnational threats. Because in a very funny way, or not funny at all, as a matter of fact, conflict and what it results in the failure of the state or the weakness of governance structure provide a breeding ground for all sorts of terrorist organization, organized crime, which affects the peace and security situation in Africa. And what we're witnessing today, as a matter of fact, is the emergence of new hybrid threats that are even negatively affecting peace and security of entire nations and entire regions. With regards to the second part of your question, it will really depend. I mean, if you're talking about regional powers in Africa, it will really depend on which measure that you are using. Obviously, I mean, the continent is 54 nations. They are not all created equal in terms of size, of population, in terms of economic abilities, in terms of military abilities, diplomatic abilities. But the reality of the matter remains that Africa is a very dynamic continent as well. But at the same time, that the threats, challenges and risks that face the continent are ones that no one nation in our continent and no group of nations even can handle alone. The only way for Africa moving forward is for African countries to come together and work together on providing African solutions to African problems. I think it's natural that certain emerging powers talk about China, talk about India, talk about Brazil, talk about other countries to have an interest in the continent. Their interest so far, or at least for the majority of them, has been driven by economics. The continent provides huge potential for many reasons. On one hand, 6 out of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa. On the other hand, we have a major movement of urbanization taking place. We have economic development paying dividends, at least in big parts of the continent. leading to rise in groups of middle income, and all of these are driving consumption, investment, so on and so forth. So, you know, after the more mature markets, if you will, around the world have been satisfied, I think the move to Africa is a natural move to the new frontier.